let me tell you a little something about that. I have that as well. I could actually do that as well, but I'd have to dig mine out. Right, exactly. Yeah, that's Erica
I
Badu
see.
right there.
I keep it there to
Yeah.
see occasionally, because I just think that is an artist doing what they do, no compromise. Absolutely,
No,
this is what I want to do,
doesn't.
not
Yeah,
bending to anybody. You
I've
know,
heard that about Caron. I've heard about her from somebody that actually knows her. This was some years ago, that when it comes to what she does not compromise. And that's
no,
the end of it. And I really respect that.
it's hard to do, man. It's
Yeah.
hard to do in the music business. I think it's especially hard if you're a woman, and
Yes.
it's hard to do in the music business because there are so many pressures on being successful and being like other people, what they're doing. If you do that, then you've got more chance of being successful. Caron came along and just did her thing, you know. And
There's a song on that very album that I featured on another one of my shows, and it was cover versions. And on that album is probably one of the greatest cover versions I've ever heard. Right? And if you can believe this now, hopefully you know who Caron is if you're watching this, and naturally you ought to know who Jimi Hendrix is. There's a cover on the album of Wind Cries Mary that is oh my god, a superlative escapes me. If you hear that song, it's genius. And who would have thought? Who I mean, not even I would have paired those two together, but it works so well. It's a work of genius, and probably the greatest cover of all of the great covers I featured on that show.
Oh man, lovely. Yeah, she, you know, the thing is with Caron was always really surprised you with her knowledge of music. Well, I don't know, surprised, but she had a very broad knowledge of music. And you know, any music to her, it was either good or bad. You know, it's like it doesn't matter what the genre is.
I'm
you know, and Duke Ellington said that there's only two kinds of music: good and bad music.
Absolutely.
Don't talk to me about any of the genres. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. It either touches you or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so I would like to talk about another great artist, great vocalist that you have worked with along your journey. And it is this lady right here. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, this is one of the greatest singers alive, as is Caron Wheeler, one of the greatest alive, in my humble opinion. This is Miss Chante Moore. This is her album Precious that came out in 1992. Now, tell us how it is you came to work with this great artist right here.
Well, I think it was certainly because of the success of Soul to Soul. I was getting a lot of interest and a lot of calls. And my brother Christopher and I, he was my manager. I think I said earlier, he was my manager at this point. We went to Los Angeles and we met a bunch of record company people. And one of the people we met was Lul Silas, who was who Chante was the debut artist on his label.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. And which was Silas Records was on MCA. It was his imprint.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And he exec produced the album as well.
Yes. He'd had a lot of success with New Edition and other bands like that. Somebody else too that he was given, you know, he was given, I think he also totally wanted to do this. You know, he probably fought for it to get his own label within MCA, and he wanted to do his own thing. And so Chante was the first artist that he put out.
Right.
And man, we just happened to be the right people in the right time. So, and I had this track, just basically, really, truly, to be honest with you, is pretty much the music you hear of Love's Taken Over.
Okay, right. Okay.
And gave it to, he said, have you got anything? And I gave him a few ideas, I think, but that was one that I thought was really good. And also people will know if they know the song Morning Will Come by Junior Giscombe.
I played that on my show as well. Sorry, and mentioned, I mentioned.
Yeah, so there's a similar groove, you know.
Is,
and I was always into this. It's this Jamaican concept of a rhythm, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I knew that rhythm on Morning Will Come. We already knew that was working. People love that rhythm.
Did Morning Will Come? Did Morning Will come first?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Right.
So that was already kind of a UK sort of tune. You know, I think it made huh?
It's a classic. Take it from me. It's a classic. It's a classic.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I'm speaking as a consumer at that time.
Yeah.
You drop that in a club now, for those who know, place goes nuts. I'm telling you.
Well, I know. I think what can I say? I just that you see, for me, I saw Junior play. I went to see the band Linx play.
Like him and David Grant.
David Grant and Sketch, the bass player. They had this band called Linx, and they were playing at Hammersmith. Not Hammersmith. They played at Tottenham Court Road, whatever that theatre is. That's now basically a theatre, but it used to be a concert venue.
Dominion.
Yeah, the Dominion. Tottenham Court Dominion. I saw Linx play there, and Junior Giscombe was doing backgrounds with them, but on a couple of tunes, he kind of came out and did his own thing. And then the next thing you knew, he came out with Mama's, Mama used to say.
Massive hit.
And that just went like, that was a huge global smash.
Massive, yeah.
So I, he was a hero to me. David Grant and those guys were heroes to me. And then I found myself working with him fairly early on in my career, just after Soul to Soul had started being successful. So I guess I just knew that groove on that tune was working. So I wanted to kind of do, I sort of deliberately did the kind of Jamaican philosophy. This is a rhythm which is happening. I want to do another tune on this rhythm.
Absolutely.
And
what a tune. And what a tune.
I gave that to Chante. She wrote that song so quickly. And we went to somebody's little home studio, recorded the vocal. And the finished vocal on the album there is the vocal. We tried to do it again, but we couldn't get the magic of this vocal. So we just kept the one that we've done in somebody's little home studio in LA.
That, viewers, listeners, that is talent. Yes. That's what that is. That's talent. Now, if you don't know the track, I'm assuming that people don't know, and I'm sure they do, but should you not, you need to just, however you need to find it, find Love's Taken Over by Chante Moore, and you will hear what Simon is saying. Now, another thing as well, when in discussing soul music with British soul artists, one of the things that keeps cropping up, and you've mentioned it as well, is what makes British soul unique is the infusion of reggae.
Yeah, man.
And that ingredient, among a few others, but I think principally reggae music and its infusion into British soul makes British soul what it is. And and you can hear that. Now, I actually thought when I first heard Chante, Love Taken Over by Chante Moore, I thought she was British because of the production, because of the groove, because of the rhythm, as you said. Okay, and then when I found out more about it and found out it was you, it was totally no surprise. Okay, because there definitely is something called British soul, and this track, it basically is that, and was her introduction into the industry. Remains a soul classic. I played it on my show, and is pretty much perfect, Mr. Law. And
well. I will say that if any, check out, Chante and I are going to be doing some new music fairly soon, actually.
Excellent. I'm glad.
She is extraordinary because she is, singers, their voices improve with time.
They should do.
And maturity comes through.
Yes.
And I mean, when you're blessed with a voice like Chante has as a young woman, already incredible.
Yeah.
What she does now singing, if you see any shots of her playing live and clips.
I have done. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The woman is on fire.
Yeah.
And she just is extraordinary.
One of
what
the
she
best,
does.
one of the best singers alive,
Yeah,
without
I
doubt.
think so. I think so.
Without doubt. There's a clip of her on YouTube, and she's singing the song "All Right." You must have seen it. I hope you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Basically, she has a massive range. Okay, she has
She
something,
has
if you don't know, called the whistle register. Now, basically, it basically the incredibly high notes.
harmonics.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And anyway, she basically just starts to play because, well, that's what she's doing, because she can, and she just sings in the whistle register at the top of her range, and it's just, you know,
Blows you
it's
away.
it's just
Fine
breathtaking.
tingling. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
control,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
purity, the seeming effortlessness of what she's doing live on stage. Most human beings couldn't do that after 50 takes or whatever. But there she's on stage doing what it is that she does in that way that she does it. Now, I have a question for you. What is it like listening to that voice do what it does in the studio in real time?
Oh, I just think it's you know, when I first heard her do that in recordings, we were just we were just, what is that? That's like, it floors you. It completely floors you. You know, it sounds otherworldly. You know, it doesn't. It sounds like some other kind of almost not human.
Yeah.
It's like some angelic kind of sort of something beamed down from the heavens. I don't know. It's really quite extraordinary sound.
Yeah.
And you say the control, you know, she has this extraordinary delicate control of her voice, which is exquisite. You know, it's she's a very, very special singer. Yeah,
very special.
She's an amazing human being too. And another person, I'll tell you, who's got wicked sense of humor.
Right. Okay. That's
just
good to know.
Funny as hell.
That's good to know. That's good to know, because of course she presents immaculately, and she has. She's a very, very beautiful woman as well.
She really is.
And her
beautiful soul, beautiful inside and out. Yeah.
That's great to know. That's great to know. And you've worked with her more than on Precious. You worked with her on her second album, which I also have, called A Love Supreme. So so obviously, you know, you have something with Chante that works. And of course she's featured on your latest album, which we'll get to in the fullness of time. But so you really have some impressive friends, I have to say. I'm pretty sure your contact list on your phone is mind-blowing, I can imagine. But yeah,
well, I feel, but you know what, man, it's like music has done all this, you know. It's sort of, this is the magical thing of music. It connects people from very, very different parts of the world, different backgrounds, different, you know, and I always try and say to people, you know, like, really make the most beautiful music you can. You'll be really surprised where it goes and who it connects you to. You know,
I think that's the great thing about art. You never know who will be. I mean, you know, the great Renaissance masters had no idea that centuries literally later, people would be queuing up to view what they've done. So I think I think it's you're absolutely right. Just do the best that you can and release it. I think it might have been you know, Sting that said that nothing is ever really finished. You just have to abandon it at some point and let it go, and just see, you know, see where it goes.
Very interesting to hear that. I'm not surprised he said that. Somebody I heard speak about this fairly recently was Neil Gaiman, the author. And he was saying his advice to people was just finish things. Like, you know, that's your job.
Yeah.
And I'm a past master at not finishing things, I'm telling you.
So I've got quite a few unfinished things in knocking around.
It's very good advice to sort of, and you're never going to be completely 100% happy. You know, I can hear all these songs you mentioned. I mean, talk about Caron Wheeler. Okay, she always was really unhappy with her vocal on Keep On Moving.
All right. Okay. Wow.
Like,
standard.
You know,
standards.
She would have gone back and done it again, but you know, it's like, you do have to just let things go, and then there it is, and people will receive it, you know, how they receive it. And
absolutely, that's the beauty of it, I think. Excellent. So the last album that you released under your own name is this, and I took delivery of this. So
oh man, thank you.
There you go, no problem. I am quote unquote old fashioned like that. I like to have music in my hands.
Have a thing,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, you know, whether it's the vinyl of this masterpiece, or if it's this, I just like to have music. Well, I'm a collector anyway, and I've been collecting music for a very, very long time. So it's called Look to the Sky. Now tell us about this, your latest project.
Yeah, well, that was came out on Dome Records.
Yes,
on I mentioned Peter Robinson's label in 2017, and it really so it was a real labor of love. And you know, I laughed about it because it took me to that long to do my debut solo album.
Right. Worth it.
I spent all my career working with other people.
Worth it.
But if you look at all the people who are featured on there, they're all my dear friends.
I shall mention some of them. Okay, so of course, Caron is on there. Miss Caron Wheeler is on there. Maxi Priest is on there. Chante Moore, that we've just spoken about, is on there. Lane Gray, your sister's on there. Joanna, yeah, Jennifer Schaefer, yeah, JazzieB.
That's my partner, JazzieB.
Right, of course.
My partner, Jen Schaefer.
Right, okay,
Nadine Sutherland from Jamaica. Nadine Sutherland, don't forget Nadine.
Yeah, you haven't forgotten her. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I can spin that around, and not that anybody can see it, but yeah. So it must be wonderful making music with friends when they're, you know, who these individuals are.
Well, it was also it was a joy because I had a lot of songs which were I had that I felt passionate about, and some of them, the oldest one was the song that Nadine sang called not Love's Taken Over, that's Chante's song. What's the song that Nadine sang?
Love Comes Back to You.
Love Comes Back to You. That was a song that I wrote with a couple of songwriters, Dan Stegel and somebody else. Now, who are they? And I have to give props to the great Erskine Thompson, who is Maxi Priest's manager. He's no longer another person. Who's no longer with us.
Okay.
But he put me in touch with Nadine.
Let's have a look.
And around that time, I was working with Maxi.
Written by SimonLaw, Dan Stegel, and Sam Berglitter.
Yeah, Sam Berglitter. Yeah. So we had this song. In fact, I think Erskine was looking for songs for Nadine. She was going to be doing a writing trip to London, and she just had a lot of success with the song Action, a big dancehall tune. And Nadine Sutherland, by the way, has an extraordinary history. She was first discovered by Bob Marley, no less than Bob Marley himself, and he put her first record out on his own label, on Tough Gong Records.
Right, I see.
I think 11 years old. It was a song, you know, a young person's song, but it was a cool tune. And then she's an amazing artist, an incredible voice. Very, I love Nadine. Nadine's just a firecracker singer, just like incredible. So what was I saying? Yeah, so that was the oldest song, and that goes back to probably around 93 or something. We wrote that song, and it never found a home, you know, but I knew this was a very special song.
Yeah.
And I just always wanted it to put it out, and I thought eventually somebody will do that, but nobody did in the end. So I had the opportunity to make my record. That was one of the first things I wanted to get done, because that's a great song.
Okay, absolutely.
And you know, there was a few songs that were written pretty much for that album, but a lot of them were older material that I had, and I just wanted people to hear, because for, you know, anybody who works in this industry knows, you know, you can work on stuff and then something happens and stuff doesn't get released, or you know, other songs get chosen,
whatever.
Stuff gets put in a vault on a hard drive, and there it sits. And so, you know, I'm working on another. I'm soon going to be releasing actually some vinyl, and it'll be a double A-side single.
Okay.
That will be the next stuff from me,
Right.
personally, and it'll be instrumentals, but funky, very, very funky.
Right.
But you know, like the stuff I'm going to do from now on will be much more stuff that I've written pretty much in this time frame, not a backlog of stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I think that is often the way. I mean, when you make your first record, and it doesn't matter what age you are, for me, it was like later on in my career, you've got a lot of stuff there sitting there that you want to draw from.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, then you catch up and get that stuff done, and then you can do your whatever's on your mind now, you know. So
have you ever done any soundtrack work, film soundtrack work?
Not really specific. I've always wanted to get into that, but it's not something that's come my way yet. Perhaps it will. I'd love to do some of that kind of things.
Okay, well, if the right person is watching this, SimonLaw is open to soundtrack work, and I'm certain it's going to be brilliant. So you know what to do, whoever you may be out there. Wonderful. So Simon, so you're working on more instrumental stuff at the moment to be
well. Yeah, I mean that's my own stuff, but I've got a bunch of projects that I'm working on at the moment. One that I can't really talk about because it's a big thing, but it's like that's very exciting and it's taking up a lot of my time at the moment.
Okay.
Certainly working on some new things with Chante. I'm also doing some work with, there's an artist called Latosha Brown, who you may know more from her activism. She was one of the founders of the Black Voters Matter movement in the southern states of America. She's from Georgia, from Atlanta. And we are going to be doing some work together. I'm very excited about that because her songs are amazing. And she has a wonderful life that is not only about music, you know, it's other stuff. So she brings a lot of beautiful energy from her other work into music. And but first and foremost, she is a singer. So, you know, that's a lovely project to be working on. And my dear friend Lane Gray, who features on my record and is really my #1 songwriting partner.
Right.
We've got all kinds of things that we're trying to get together and work on. Some stuff for him, and he's always involved in the mix. Yeah.
Excellent. So
he lives in Houston now. We're both expats. He lives in Houston. I live in Toronto. So
British.
Yeah. He was part of the band New Colours, right? The UK group New Colours.
Right. I see. Excellent. Good to know. There's also somebody else that you have forgotten to mention that hopefully you're going to be working with before too long, and that person is me. But we'll talk about that in the future.
Oh, this is news to me, man.
Yeah, you know, no longer. No, you can't say you don't know.
No.
Man. I have some music in me that needs to get out. And I can think of no better person to help me with that. In fact, if I had a wish list of producers to work with on any music, you know, that I was working on now, it would be Omar, it would be yourself, and it would be Jam and Lewis. So those would be my 3 dream choices of producer to grace anything that I would want to put out there.
I'm honored to be in that number.
Well, you know what? I hope you're not surprised by it. I know you are humble and modest and grateful for everything that you have you've been given and that you've achieved. But it comes from the heart, and it's when you agreed to do this for me, I was absolutely thrilled because, you know, technology, you know, now enables fans to, you know, speak to people that they've admired for many years and that have inspired them to on their musical journey. So, you know, it's wonderful for me to be talking to somebody that I've, you know, like I said, that I've admired for so long, and that's produced music that even now, you know, I play the music of Soul to Soul. I play the music of Chante Moore. I feature it on my radio show. I play it for my own personal pleasure. And you know, it does for me now what it did for me the very first time I heard it.
Oh
And
man,
that hasn't diminished one bit. I still feel the same types of feelings that I felt, you know, when I first heard it. So that
that's
is
so
the
lovely.
power.
That's so
Sorry.
lovely to hear, because I you know, I feel that way, especially about Maurice White's music
Yes.
and how much it means to me. It's still, I still hear new things in there. It still inspires me, and I know Earth, Wind and Fire's music like the back of my hand, really now. But it's still, so I get what you're saying, and thank you very much for saying that. It's very,
You're a
very,
music fan yourself, so yes,
yeah, yeah.
we're all fans, and I would I would hope that, you know, anybody out there, whoever you may be, who hopes to be as great as they can be in whatever they're doing, whether you are sculpting or you're a musician or whatever you're doing, that you know, you remain open and curious and a fan and an aficionado, if you like, of what is great. And I think
Yeah.
when you recognize or are able to recognize what's great when you know, behold it, then I think you have a good chance of producing something great yourself. But it's
Yeah.
important to be exposed to greatness in whatever, you know, form it comes.
Well, I always like you mentioned painters earlier in the interview. I always remember learning that you know, the great painters would, in order to learn their craft, they would have to replicate the masters. They'd have to do copies of the masters,
Yes.
you know, and it's like, that's a pretty good way to learn,
Yeah.
you know, because you really immerse yourself in the craft of somebody who has mastered an art form, you know. And not saying that I've mastered music. I'm not sure that's even possible for anybody, but
And yeah, I know what I know what you're
the painting world.
Mm.
But yeah, the other thing, one thing I wanted to say, I always like to mention this in any interviews, is that I also do quite a lot of work within the field of music and dementia, and I wanted to mention it just on talking about the meaning of music, because I think in that work I've discovered more really what the true meaning of music is. Because if someone has lost their memory and it's disintegrating, as it does with dementia, and they get very confused and can be very agitated and very disturbed, music can be will still reach them right until the end often.
Absolutely.
And I this has taught me how precious and how powerful this thing that we work on is, you know, and how precious it is, really. And that's another reason to really put your heart and soul into it, because that will communicate to someone, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I mean, you as a consumer of art, as somebody who, you know, attempts to create art himself, I too, the Tate in London, the Tate Gallery in London, modern, one of my favorite places to be in the world. I too am a lover of art, anything creative that provokes any kind of feeling in me or thought in me. And art inevitably does, whatever it is, whether it's, you know, revulsion or admiration, or whether it agitates you or whatever, it provokes something in you. And I think, you know, yes, I was going to say, ask you, so what else aside from, we'll get on to your work with dementia and music in a short while. What other interests do you have? What other passions do you have, Simon, apart from music, which I'm sure is the main one? What else occupies you, interests you?
Oh, I'm a big lover of nature, and I you know, spend a lot of time walking in nature. We have a beautiful dog, Bodhi, who we spend a lot of time walking with now. And I mean, I've raised my kids that you know, they're 20s now, so they're doing their own thing. So there's more time for all those sort of things now, of being in nature. My partner Jen is a fine musician. We do a lot of music. Music is the centerpiece, really, of our life. I love cooking. I love cooking. Find there's a lot of similarities between cooking and music. I love spirituality. I read a lot about spirituality and growth, inner growth, and yeah, I think that's pretty much all my bits that I'm into, man. I mean, you know, I try and follow the news and everything. I stay up to date, but it's a tricky time these days. And
yes, it is. Yeah,
I'm limiting my contact with that a bit because I find it's a little overwhelming, you know.
And I find it can lower one's frequency as well. So I ration my exposure to that as well. Not that I'm indifferent, not that I don't care, but you know what, you just, you know, your diet is not only what you eat, it's what you perceive. So you've got to be very careful what you know you're exposing yourself in to, and you know, day to day. Simon, is there anybody that you'd like to work with that you haven't yet worked with? Just give us a couple of people, maybe two or three.
Oh my God, these are really difficult questions. This kind of question.
You're not going to offend anybody, just, you know, people will understand if, you know, you don't mention them, I'm sure. But
well, I tell you what, I'll tell straight off the bat, after seeing him perform on Saturday night, I'd love to do something with Sampha. He's incredible.
Okay. Lovely.
So amazing.
Right, so you've put that out into the ether, and we know what that can do. Let's hope, you know, and that is something that as a consumer, as a music fan lover, I'd love to hear. So yes, let that be so. Yes, one day, please.
Great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I think the other thing that I would really love to do is not so much because I'm working with some fascinating artists at the moment that are very inspiring to me. It's more, I would love to explore the world of film, music, and you composing to picture, you know.
Okay, right.
So that would be something I would love to get into at some point. Okay. I've had lots of my music used in films and you know, TV shows and whatever. And
well, wasn't one of your tracks in Grand Theft Auto, the video game?
Oh yeah, there's a ton of my tunes in all those video games.
Yeah, that's great.
The violent ones, you know,
like you said, who knew? Who knew? Who knew all those years ago? You know, gamers would be probably as familiar with your music as I am. That's a beautiful thing.
Right. Well, how about, you know, where my kids playing one of those games?
Yeah.
Was there one called All Saints or Saints something Row or something?
I'm not a gamer. There probably was.
He said, Dad, I heard your tune. I was driving around Los Angeles in this car.
That's amazing.
I heard your tune. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Such is the power and reach of great art, whatever it may be. Simon, I have one final question to ask you, and it is this. Mr. SimonLaw, you will be remembered. You most certainly will be remembered for a very, very long time to come. But Simon, how would you like to be remembered?
As a lover of life.
Okay, that sounds great to me. Mr. SimonLaw, bless you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all of the moments your music has helped me through. Thank you for all of the emotions and the feelings your music will elicit in my life in the future. And thank you for everything that you're doing now. I remain a huge fan of your work and your gifts, and continued success. Thank you for everything. Thank you for joining me for this time. I know time is precious for all of us, so I thank you for sharing this time with me. And I I don't know quite what more to say than that, but just thank you so much.
Very, very generous words. Thank you so much. And it's been lovely to share this time speaking with you. Thank you so much, man.
Simon, where can people find you? Do you have like an official website? And
yeah, there's funkyginger.com, thefunkyginger.com.
Right.
I'm on Facebook. There is a page for the Funky Ginger. There's also SimonLaw, which is my main page on Facebook.
Okay.
And then there's Funky Ginger on Instagram, which is my probably the one that I use the most these days, social media wise.
Because of course we all you know, are involved in one way or another in social media, and you know, it's just the way of the world, and of course it allows fans like myself to reach out and express admiration and appreciation for the people that we admire. So, you know, there are good things to it.
Yes, there are some good things. Yes. Not all bad.
No.
Again, one has to find a decent sort of moderation with it, you know, because it can suck you in and you disappear.
Yeah, but there are, as we've just said, some good things about it, and
for sure.
no less how we came to connect with each other as well.
Yes.
Okay,
Randall, thank you so much, man.
No, thank you, and continued success, and thank you for everything thus far, Simon. Cheers.
God bless, man. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.